Lord Jones, what do the two main political parties need to do to prove that they're good for business?
We live in a globally competitive environment. You know, India wants your lunch, China wants your dinner, and every day in every way, Britain has to compete in the world. So, what do businesses need? They need access to skilled people. Businesses, small and large, all over Britain. Biggest challenge, can't get enough skilled people. Second up, they want an immigration policy that is saying we're not against any form of immigration as long as the people are skilled, regardless of whether they come from within or without the EU. So we need that sorted, so we don't end up with unskilled people from the EU and we keep out skilled people from outside the EU. So that needs sorting out. And also a competitive tax environment. It was interesting that a major American corporation just a few months ago has relocated their headquarters, their global headquarters, from Chicago to London for one reason only: 20% corporation tax in Britain, 32% in Chicago. Now those are the sorts of things we need, but in the run-up to the general election, what we must have is the mood music coming from both Conservative and especially Labour, because they've got some catching up to do on this subject, of being pro-wealth creation. You see, for the nation, not for the business community, but for the nation, the penny has to drop that if you don't have a successful, profit-producing business sector, then you don't generate taxation, and therefore you don't have a public sector. You can't afford an NHS, regardless of whether it needs reform, how much money, you can't have one unless you get taxation. And if you can't have taxation unless you create wealth. And the people who work in the private and public sector get their wages from the profits that business makes. So it is so important that the penny drops and then is seen to drop. So it's a mood music issue. We have to have the Labour Party at the very top, Ed Miliband, making speeches about the fact that profit is a good thing, the fact that big business matters. We don't see that at the moment. At the moment, they're running scared of it, really, because if you get a bank or an energy company misbehaving, then for some reason it fulfills all their prejudice about business. And that's a real shame, because there's businesswomen and businessmen all over Britain creating wealth every day, from the biggest companies to the smallest companies. And without them, the public sector would be pretty sick indeed.
And what do the parties, do you feel, need to be saying about Europe and our involvement in it?
So many business people are actually quite in favour of staying within the EU, but no, it's crying out for reform. And one of the problems we're trying to get Brussels, which is marching valiantly towards 1970, one of the problems, how do you get it to reform if there isn't some form of threat about what will happen if they don't? So Business First Up wants a reformed EU, a place which is globally competitive, a place where they put more money into education than they do the common agricultural policy, a place where actually they don't send you to prison if you want to work more than 48 hours a week, a place where their immigration policy allows countries to say you're not coming here unless there's a job for you. Now, those are the sorts of reforms that are needed, and so many business people will be saying reform it because I want to stay in it. We like the free trade area concept. We like the single market, but we're not at any price. The problem the Tories have is that by saying we'll give you a referendum on this issue, yes, they are trying to address the democratic deficit everybody feels in the whole of Europe, and well done them for that, but they create a period of uncertainty. So between the election and whenever the referendum comes, there would be this period, 1-2 years of uncertainty. And no business of any size anywhere likes uncertainty. They like boring predictability. So that is an issue. The other aspect of EU that we have to address, and this is important about whether whichever government gets into power, is we don't want the regulations that come out of Europe gold-plated by Britain. A very good example is there is no European rule saying that you have to give universal benefits to everybody in the European Union if they come here. That's nothing to do with Brussels. That's the British government. So Germany is saying we're not going to do it. So why is it that Britain has to do it? So we need a civil service and government advisors of any party that get real on the benefit system as it applies to the European Union. And then one word of advice I think that I would give any political party in their negotiations with Europe. Don't be seen to be doing this as Britain exceptionalism. Don't be seen to be doing this that you're saying we're different, we're special, we need this reformed for us. Europe should be reformed for an unemployed kid in Athens. Europe should be reformed for someone out of work in Madrid. It should be a European-wide issue, this reform. It shouldn't be seen to be done for Britain. And if you approach it in that way, we have a better chance of securing success.
Lord Digby Jones, thank you very much.
My pleasure.